Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
Good Monday morning. I'm your host, Scott, for another wonderful edition of Baseball Now. And today we've got a special guest in our studio. We've got our lead analyst, Thomas.
Hey, how you doing, Scott?
Good. How about you? Welcome
I'm
to the
doing pretty
studio.
good. Always glad to be back here in the East Tennessee Media Studio.
Glad to have you back. We had a very interesting week this week.
Yes, we did. It was really interesting. We had some good ball games that came down this Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, we did.
Really interesting.
So how about you go ahead and start us off on our weekly recap?
All right, let's go ahead. So you had the Dominators. That's me over the Express. That's Ruben by 78. The Dominators moved to 2-2. The Express, they moved to 3-1. Then you've got the Demon Ducks, Greg over Just a Little Crazy Dan by 45. That was really a close game all
Yeah, it
week.
was. That was very interesting.
Greg moves to 3-1. Dan moves to 2-2. And then you have the Wildcats over the Chili Dogs by 100 points. Tammy moving to 4-0. Ken moving to 1-3.
No, let's just be honest. We fully expected that.
Yeah, we did. That's not a surprise. And then the next one is a little surprise. The Warner Robin Bombers over the Gatlinburg Knights by 80. 1-3. Jackson moves to 1-3. Scotty goes to 0-4. Kind of a little bit of surprise there. But it's like I was thinking earlier, you're only down by 2 games with this new playoff system.
Yep.
So you still got, you ain't got much time, but you still got plenty of time
Oh, yeah.
to get the ball rolling. So with that being said, there was really no new injuries this week, or no big trades.
Well,
that
we
was
did
done.
have one of my pitchers come down yesterday.
Muriel Kelly,
Yeah.
but we're still not sure. I think that was a right shoulder injury. So we're still not really sure what if he's day to day or what's going on. No big trades that was done.
Mm-mm.
No big moves. So that pretty much is going to wrap up your Week 4 recap. Now let's go ahead and we'll move ahead to week number 5. You've got the first game on the docket. You've got the brother versus brother. The Dominators, me versus Scotty, 0-5. Scott, this is going to be an interesting ball game. It always comes down to the wire between us.
Yes, it does, and there's been a couple times I've pulled it out, a couple times I've stunned you.
Yeah, there was one in 2019 where I was 8-0, and you beat me, and I know it came down to literally the last ball game.
Yep.
I think it was like 11 o'clock is what it came down to on Sunday. And, I mean, you won that battle, but I won the title that year.
Yes, you did.
So,
One
but
of the
always-
few titles you won.
2 titles. It always comes down to a wire between us, so I think it's going to come down to the wire again. I've got this game. I've got the Dominators by 50. I think you've got a good team. I think you've got some moves up your sleeve, but I mean, I think 50 is a close ball game.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then the next game on the schedule, you've got Greg with the Demon Ducks versus Ken with the Chili Dogs. On this one, I've got Greg by 75. What are you thinking?
I'd say 75 is about right, because I think this year Ken's having a down year so far.
Yeah, I would agree. Although I'm not really sure Greg can put away Ken. Greg's 3-1, but Greg's not exactly, blowing teams out of the water.
Right.
But I mean, you're still 3-1 though, so that's still nothing to sneeze at.
Nothing to sneeze at, but it's also a little concerning.
Correct. And then you have the next schedule. You have the Warner Robin Bombers versus Just a Little Crazy Dan. I've got Dan in this one by 125. What do you think?
I'd go with that. I think that's fair.
And then our last game, which is our main event, game of the week, you have the you have the Atlantic Express, that's Ruben, versus Tammy and the Wildcats. She's looking to go to 5-0 and continue her run. And Ruben's looking to get back, to get a little get back from last week's butt whooping that he took at the hands of the Dominators for a 4th straight time by more than 80 points. So, well, I want to get your prediction first. What do you think is going to happen on this game this week?
Well, I think on my game with you, I think it's going to be down to the wire.
I agree.
Like you said, me and you always come down to the wire. It's always a battle of wits.
Yep, it is.
You know, a couple of times that I have beaten you. I've played you match for match, move for move.
There's only been a couple of blowouts, I remember.
And it's been, that's probably, I figured out, probably the best way to beat you is the only way to knock you out when you're on a roll is to match you move for move.
Well,
And just hope it works.
the pitcher's also got to perform too.
Right. And then I think I think it's going to be close. I think it's too close. It's going to be too close to name a winner yet
On which game?
on ours.
What's your opinion on the Express and the Wildcats? What's your
Oh,
prediction? You got one team that's looking to make the run, that's looking to make the Dominators ask run at 8-0 to go to 5-0, and then you're looking at a team that just, like I said a minute ago, that just got done getting their butt whooped by the Dominators.
I'm going to go the Express. I'm going to go the upset. I'm going to say the Atlanta Express is going to beat the Wildcats and knock them off their 5-0 streak. And the main reason I'm going to go with that is because, you know, he had a tough week last week. He got beat by you.
He's still got a very good team, though.
He's got a really
Very
good team.
strong team.
But I feel like he's going to be trying to put everything together.
Right. Well, here's what I'm gonna go with the Wildcats, but I'm gonna go with by 25. I think this is gonna be her biggest test right now. Greg was a really good performance 2 weeks ago, just wasn't enough. But I'll go with her by 25. And
I
a
agree with
very tight battle.
What about the Demon Ducks?
I think the Demon Ducks will roll.
Now let me ask you this.
Roll Demon Ducks.
This
that
far-
really don't sound right.
No, it don't. This far along in the season, is there a lot of things that surprising you? I know going into the season, I predicted the Ducks to be right up there because they had a great run last year. The Ducks have slowly started to creep up. You know, the Wildcats have slowly creeped up too, but I never in a million years expected the Wildcats to take off like this.
When I looked at their team, I thought the Wildcats were really strong. They drafted really good. Did I think she'd be 5-0 and dominantly 5-0? No, but I'm not really surprised at her performance. Right now, I think she is one of the top teams. I'm a little surprised at your team. Are you making another run to go 1-20 again for a second straight year?
No, I'm not. No, I'm
Because
not.
it sure
That's-
seems like it.
I've had bad luck, I believe, to start the year because, you know, a couple of my scores have been 300s, 400s. I'm scoring the points.
Yeah, you are scoring the points.
That's
You're
my
just not
opponents
there.
are getting luckier and hitting more points.
Right. What do you think about Greg's team? A team that went to the 5. They started strong a year ago. They kind of averaged out in the middle. Then came on late, knocked out the Dominators in the playoffs. Got up to Dan, lost by like 100, right around 90, 100 points. What do you think about his start so far? Because I got some interesting comments on his start too.
I think he's off to a good start, but is this going to be? I think the thing that the Ducks are going to have to realize for this season is last year you had a couple of teams, the Dominators. Your team was not as dominant through the whole season.
Right. Correct.
You come on a little bit at the end, stronger, but I don't want to say you treaded the water, but I guess that's the best analogy. You were just treading water, it seemed like.
And then I was able to make a big run.
But
and I just ran out of
I think the
steam.
thing the Ducks have to think is last year you had you treading water, the Express, who is always a powerhouse and a very tough team to beat.
Well,
the
until they get to the first round of the playoffs and they get knocked out.
early exit. It's tough with them because last year because they had a really down year last year.
Yeah, they did.
And you know, last year you had the Ducks, you've had the Bombers, you've had teams that normally are top, not that
Better
good.
than floating down.
But then this year, you've got the Express, which the Express looks like they're back.
Yeah, the Express are back. I mean, they got beat this week or this past week. But
Or
the Express are back.
if not back 100%, the
They're-
Express looks like they're taking a run at it like you did last
yeah,
year.
the Express is back. So far, it's like you've got the Wildcats, you got the Express that are there, And then I think the third on the 5 or 6 is really anybody's ball game between me, Dan, Greg. Between those three, I think right now it's anybody's ball game who that third best team really is.
Right, but my thing is, do I think the Ducks are doing good enough to make another playoff run like they did last year? I think they could end up in the playoff, but I think if they do the same strategy that they're doing, if they do start out strong, mellow, and then get back strong, I don't think they'll make it this year because you've got you're all of a sudden resurging and coming back.
When people
You've
say
got
it wouldn't be.
The Wildcats that's on a roll.
Right.
I mean, the main question is, how much longer can the Wildcats keep up this 5-0 streak? I mean, it's undefeated.
Well, if they win this week, they'll be 5-0. I think this. I don't. I already know when it comes back to playing me. An interesting fact: if she wins until she comes back to me, she'll be 8-0. She will have tied my streak.
Right.
I do know, as not speaking as commissioner, but as speaking as the owner of the Dominators, I do know she will not win that game. I look forward to taking her down, as much as I also look forward to taking another opponent down that I play, I think, a week before her.
The Ducks?
I look forward to dismantling the Demon Ducks. I mean, we had a close battle the first week of the year. It was really a good ball game, but I really want to, thrash the Demon Ducks. I'd like to take them down. As I've said throughout the show and the pre-draft special, all I see is seven victims. That's all I see this year. It don't matter if it's Greg, if it's Ruben, if it's Tammy. 7 victims is all I see. But I think we're set in for another really good week 5, and we just got to see how the players perform.
Have you heard any rumblings of trades?
I've heard a couple of rumors of trades. I don't want to speculate, but I've heard a couple of rumors of what's going on.
Which, if we have any major trade updates or anything, any blockbuster deals that happen, Cash and Sports will come in and talk about it. And I'm looking forward to, I'm guessing the bullpen show Thursday will be highlighted with the game of the week.
Yep. We'll have both guests on the bullpen show of the main event game of the week between the Express and the Wildcats. We're also going to have another guest on the show. Might have 2 on the show. So it should be an action-packed bullpen show on Thursday.
Which hopefully by the time we come down to Thursday, hopefully it won't be a lopsided game of the week.
I don't think it will be. The main question, though, is will the sibling game be a lopsided game when we get to Thursday? That's going to be the question.
I'm surprised that wasn't the main event of the week.
Well, I mean, you got you at 0-4 and me at 2-2, but you got the Express at 3-1 and
Right.
and the Wildcats at 4-0. That's like last week. You had Dan and Greg the game of the week, which I was really impressed with Greg's performance last week beating Dan. That was a really good W by Greg.
Let's take a moment to look at the Commissioner's Power Rankings that you've released.
Okay, so here we go.
Before we start releasing them and start naming the positions, why don't you tell us the formula? Because I know a lot of the fans out there are questioning and want to know how you come up with these rankings.
So this week, the formula that was used this week, win-loss record, points for, and head-to-head. That was the main formula that was used for this week's power rankings. So with that being said, we're going to go from the bottom up and change a little bit this week. We're going to go from the bottom up. So at number 8, you've got the Gatlinburg Knights. They were number 7 last week. At number 7, you've got the Bombers. They were 8 last week. At 6, you've got Ken. He was at 6 last week. At 5, you got Dan. He was at number 4. At 4, you got the Georgia Dominators, who was at number 5 last week. And the top 3 are the exact same top 3 from a week ago. Demon Ducks at number 3. The Express at number 2 still, and the Wildcats for a 5th week in a row holding on to the number 1 spot. I want to point out, so 1 is pretty clear, but the gap between 3, 4, and 5 is really small between Greg, myself, and Dan. That gap's really small, I feel like. Even though Greg is 3 and 1, I still think that's a small gap between our 3 teams. And I don't think the Express is head and shoulders above 3, 4, and 5.
Right.
But there might still be a small little bit of a gap. Now, I want to see how they play this week against the Wildcats and their future opponent, Greg, coming up. That might change
Right.
the
I'm
whole
looking
ball
forward to
game.
seeing that too.
So that is your power rankings for week number 5.
So it looks like in the power rankings this week, it looks like there's not much change.
No,
Just a
not
few
really.
small flip flops.
this is a few small changes.
You know, me and Jackson have been flip flopping back and forth the last 2 weeks.
That's
and-
really a good spot to be.
No, it ain't. And then you and Dan flip flopping some.
Right, yeah.
Now my question is, and I think everybody wants to know this, the game of the week, if you have the Express get slaughtered by the Wildcats, or it could be the vice versa, the Express could slaughter the Wildcats. Do you see, if one of them two gets slaughtered and it's a blowout, do you see a major drop?
I don't see a major drop between those 2 teams. If the Wildcats end up getting hammered this week, there's not going to be a major drop for them. They will drop. They will be out of the number 1 power ranking spot, but there won't be a 2 or 3 slide. If the Express end up getting slaughtered this week, but you actually predicted they would win.
Right.
But if they end up getting demolished by the Wildcats, then yes, there could be a significant drop by the Express, probably down to anywhere between 3 and 5th.
So just to recap for the week ahead, your prediction is you versus me. You've got me beat. And then you've got, with the Ducks and Chili Dogs, you're predicting the Ducks,
Over
the Dominators.
no, the Ducks over the
Ducks over the Chili Dogs,
Yeah.
excuse me. And then you've got Dan over Jackson.
right by 125. I don't know though. I'm starting to
And for the
kind of feel a little bit uneasy about that.
for the
one.
main event, you've got the Wildcats.
I've got the Wildcats, and they really
Which I go with all of yours except the Wildcats and our matchup. I think our matchup's going to come down to the wire, and I think it's going to be another victory for me.
Well, I mean,
And I think the Express will beat the Wildcats.
you're. I hate that you're starting out 0-4, but unfortunately, you got to be 0-5.
My thing is, it's kind of a record, your 8-0 streak that I snapped in
Right.
2019. And I have not, honestly, I don't think we've seen a team go undefeated like that.
Right.
I know, personally, I know the makeup that you had on that team and how you were managing it. I just don't foresee another 8-0 run for the Wildcats.
I think I'll say this. I think the Wildcats. I don't think their team is made up the same that my team was made up 5 years ago. I don't see that. No, I don't see the same manager style in that team too, because it
No.
does take. Yeah, you can have the players, but it does take skill, luck, and the right manager.
Right.
I'm not saying the Wildcats, the owner team, is a bad manager, because she's not. But the styles are a little bit different. I don't see that. I think she's got a couple of opponents that can stump her before she gets to 8-0. But if she does get to 8-0, she knows that's all good. She can get to 8-0, but then
What matters is
That
when they get to the
next-
playoffs.
that next game, she's gonna take an ass whooping. That's what matters. Excuse my language, but that's what it's gonna be.
Right. Well, that's about it for the Baseball Now today. From our beautiful East Tennessee Media Studio 44, I'm your host, Scott, and this is our lead analyst for Cash and Sports, Thomas, and the host of the Bullpen Show.
This has been a production of Cash and Sports, a division of East Tennessee Media.